Welcome everyone, Costin here with a discussion about the Greeks in Age of Mythology Retold. Let's take a look at the tech tree, the gods, the options of gods, and the benefits they bring. Starting with Zeus, he gains 10 favor at the beginning of a match. He generates favor 20% faster. Myth units cost 1 less population, so you can have a bigger army of them. Infantry do 50% extra damage to buildings, and hoplites move faster. On top of that, he does have the Lightning Bolt God Power, which is an instant kill ability against the vast majority of units in the game, though crucially not all of them, just understand that because some are protected. You get Olympian Parentage, which gives you 25% HP for heroes and reduces their train time by 50%. Now this is very useful because Greek heroes, there's only a few of them that you can get. And let's say you're going into a massive fight, they're fairly durable as is. With that 25% extra HP, Zeus's heroes are just going to be able to dominate the battlefield in quite a few ways. Those heroes, if we look at the fortress, which by the way doesn't contain, like in the tech tree, his unique unit, but if we look at the fortress, we get Jason, Heracles, Odysseus, and Bellerophon. Now, these guys, two melee heroes. Hercules is pretty durable, pretty strong. Jason, pretty decent. And obviously with upgrades, these guys, like each of them, is capable of doing a significant amount of damage. Having Odysseus as a ranged hero, pretty powerful over there once you get him at tier 3. So Jason is the tier 1 version, like we can actually see this with the town center. Odysseus tier 3, Hercules tier 2, and at tier 4 you do get Bellerophon. Now Bellerophon does have a leap attack. He's very fast, very strong, hard to kill, especially because he is certainly very fast in terms of how he moves on the battlefield. So good luck dealing with that when your enemy's worshipping Zeus, they're getting Bellerophon with more HP. Yeah, that's certainly gonna create some problems. So Zeus is really good at creating myth units and dealing with myth units. And also he's really good with infantry. Speaking about infantry, I do need to go into the compendium. And over here, we can just scroll down all the way right here to get the Myrmidon. Over Militia, Minotaur, where the hell? Okay, that is, there we go. So the Myrmidons, their benefit, is that they're pretty strong against virtually everything. Myth units, regular units, because they deal divine damage, 9 divine damage. Now, divine damage ignores armor of units, and they're fairly strong because, one, they're pretty durable to begin with. You can only gain them as Zeus. You can even get some of these for free from your fortresses with Hera, if you decide to give up on the significant economic benefits that Hephaestus does provide you. But these guys are pretty strong. Tier 4 unit that is available to Zeus. So if you're playing late game, you have a very strong infantry army, and if you do worship Hera, you can get Argive Patronage, which causes your fortresses to periodically spawn Myrmidons for free. So lots of infantry, lots of myth units. In terms of the minor gods, you get adhere to a choice between Athena and Hermes. Now, as far as I'm concerned, having played a decent amount of the game at this particular point, over 40 hours at this stage, I would have to say that in large fights between massive armies, especially non-myth armies, centaurs can be really good because their special ability has been changed from a one-shot kill ability against, like, say, infantry units, or a high damage single shot, which wasn't particularly great if you had lots of these guys, but it is useful when, obviously in small groups. But now that's been changed to a volley ability. You lose the single target damage, but you gain the AoE damage because it's like a volley in an area. Enemy can move out, but if you force an enemy in an engagement, he's either going to have to retreat with centaurs, or he's going to have to stay and fight through that damage. You do get, obviously, centaur upgrades, cavalry upgrades as well. You get the respawning Pegasus, and scouting ability, and you get the ceasefire ability. This can be useful when you're just trying to control the battlefield, picking fights like, oh, you got yourself in a bad engagement. You can choose to get out of that particular engagement. Though I would say Athena makes a bit more sense given like Zeus's own personal benefits for like heroes and infantry. And this is for a couple of reasons. So Zeus gets faster hoplites. Athena buffs hoplites. So she has Aegis shields, which makes melee infantry or infantry more resistant to pierce attacks. So they're more resistant to archers, and because they're faster, they can close that gap. On top of that, they get the Sarissa ability, which, yeah, doesn't make sense given the timeline, but they get extra range for the hoplites gain extra range and do more damage. Then you get Minotaurs, which have been made bigger as a unit, much bigger than they originally were, so they're a bigger target. But interestingly, I think they were food in the original game, and now they're gold. So that is obviously a significant trade-off, right? Like, you have to spend gold. Gold is, well, the way I view it, I'd say food is far more important early on, and gold is useful, obviously, in very long games. But if you're playing a short game, you won't necessarily be struggling for gold as much as you'll be struggling for food early on, as you're going through the ages. So the Minotaurs being gold is kind of benefit, and crucially for the massive infantry army that Zeus can get, especially free units, restoration, and remember, all god powers can be recast, can be pretty damn powerful. At tier 3, you get either Apollo or Dionysus. Now, your choice here at tier 3 is probably going to be dictated by your choice at tier 2, because, like, Athena does give you healing at tier 2. Apollo also gives you healing through... Apollo also gives you healing through the Temple of Healing. So if you're going with Athena, probably not the greatest choice of going with Apollo from a healing perspective. Just pointing out. However, from a unit perspective, Manticores can be your substitute. Like, if you're going with Athena, it is double healing, sure, but you can get those Manticores to give you the range ability that you would be lacking by giving up Centaurs. And it also gives you flexibility on the battlefield with Underworld Passage. Just pop that in the vulnerable spot of an enemy base and just go to town with that. And then he also buffs your ranged units. So you get some pretty decent range units. Like Centaurs, they're faster. They can potentially do more damage, but they're kind of squishier than Manticores. Manticores are more durable. They are, however, a lot more expensive as a unit. The population... And Centaurs can benefit quite a bit from population because you can reduce that population cost with Zeus by 1. So I think it depends, like, what are you going to go for? I'd say the myth unit choice is more important in this particular case. And obviously, double healing, like defensive healing with Temple of Healing as opposed to aggressive healing with Restoration that you do have. Don't underestimate Ceasefire, however. Then you have Dionysus with Bronze, which now works on myth units. That is that is as powerful as you think it is. So this makes them very, very durable, which is useful with the Hydra and upgraded Hydra. So upgraded Hydras can regenerate HP. So even if you don't have healing in other respects, you can still get healing Hydras. Now this is important because Hydras are a slow-ass moving target and a big target. The amount of damage that Hydras can do is ridiculous. Like, with 5 heads, if you can get 5 heads, it's something like, 180 damage per hit, more or less. They obliterate things in their path. Obviously, myth units have heroes have an easy time against them, like other Greek heroes or Atlantean heroes. They can have a fairly easy time against them because, again, big target that won't do that kind of damage against enemy heroes. But all the same, if you can keep them alive, you will suffer from the perspective of mobility, but you can basically get like kind of vampiric aura with him for your cavalry. Though I'd say Dionysus makes more sense for Poseidon in that respect. Like Hydras, very situational, depends on like, okay, how fast is your enemy can he basically run in circles around you? Because that is the problem with Hydra. Like, it's one of the slower myth units in the game. Extremely powerful if they close the gap, but it is that problem with speed in that respect. And they're not as durable as, you know, something like a Colossus. At tier 4, you do get Hephaestus, or uniquely for Zeus, Hera. Now, Hephaestus, we all know what he does. He makes very tanky myth units, Colossi that can heal themselves. They can heal himself through trees or gold mines. You probably wouldn't want to do that on your own gold mines, but the enemy gold mine, depleting them, that can be useful. Especially if you're dealing with someone like Ford, you know, just make him waste favor with respect to that. He gets a huge economic benefit through plenty, and a further economic benefit with Forge of Olympus. I imagine a strategy in certain games would be to try and get to tier 4 as quickly as possible, get Forge of Olympus, and significantly reduce the cost of upgrade. This will save you a ton of money. Even if you've gotten all the upgrades until tier 4, this can still save you a significant amount of money. And then on top of that, he improves the attack of those Myrmidons that you do have. So melee attack, 20% for Myrmidons. That's important for Zeus. And melee attack damage bonus, like, and you get the attack damage bonus against myth units as well. Now, alternatively, you do have Hera. So Hera gives you a Lightning Storm. And Lightning Storm, the way it works in Retold, is a bit different than in the original game. So in the original game, Lightning Storm would do a lot of damage early on, after, like, I don't know, a brief period, but it would start doing damage pretty much instantly. Here it takes a bit of time to ramp up, so you can actually move out of it, but while it takes time to ramp up, it does do a lot of damage long term. Like, this obliterates armies if they stay in it. Then she gets Medusae. Now, Medusae petrify enemy units, and their ability, their combat ability with range is not necessarily the greatest, but they're decently durable, and they can basically do a ton of damage through petrification. It isn't an instant kill ability as it was in original, so that's been a bit nerfed, but it's still a really, really powerful ability, and they're not necessarily the craziest and expensive unit. And they don't cost gold, which is pretty important, by the way, unlike Colossus, who do cost gold. And then, crucially, you do get Monstrous Rage. This is really important because this makes your myth units move faster and attack faster. Combining Monstrous Rage with Hydras can be extremely powerful, or Minotaurs, really, if you decide to go for them. So, like, if you're going to go Hera, there might be a firm argument to going with Dionysus early on. Maybe Athena tier 2, you know, for the healing, Dionysus tier 3. But yeah, those are the options for Zeus. Like, he can get some really powerful myth units, and a lot of them. Then, and powerful infantry and plentiful infantry. Actually, Hera does get free Myrmidons. They're not going to be as powerful as the ones Hephaestus gives you, but they are still, you know, getting them for free from fortresses, still pretty powerful. You can really see the Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition teamwork on this, because, yeah, that's something they do in Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. Like the castle units, so to speak. Portrait issues over there. Then we have Hades, the god of the underworld. He gives you Shades. Shades, not necessarily that great units, but you do get them for free. So, hey, free is free, right? Even if they're just basically trash units. You do get 20% HP on myth units, so you do have the most durable myth units. Not the cheapest, not the fastest, not cheapest in terms of population, but certainly more durability to them. And this combines well with his range benefits. He gains range, 1 range to soldiers and heroes, 2 range for fortifications, and then ballistics and burn pitch are researched instantly for free in their respective ages. So once you get there, you can get these. His special unit which is, again, not shown in this freaking tree over here. So I just need to go over here into Learn Compendium and units. Yeah, it's a crossbow unit, more or less. Where are you? There we go. So they are good against infantry and buildings, but really they're pretty much good against everything. They're not the most durable unit. They do cost a good amount of wood, good amount of gold. They do take up a good amount of population, but these guys, they do damage. It's like obviously benefiting from all the other range benefits that Hades does have. So you can only gain these from fortresses. So looking back at Hades, if the damn icon will actually load up. Yeah, sometimes this happens. I don't know why. It's just bizarre stuff in the game. Ignore his icon then, fine, fair enough. So that's what you get. In terms of god powers, you do have Sentinel. So Hades is kind of like the MVP at the moment for Greeks and multiplayer based on tier lists I've seen, based on people who are dedicated towards playing multiplayer right now. And that's because he gets a pretty decent defensive benefit, which you can reuse, obviously, with Favor. With Sentinel, you do get a steady, endless income of gold. It's not particularly great, but you do at least get it over there. So obviously not the best heroes necessarily in comparison, but you do get Ajax. Though this is not Ajax from the campaign. Ajax in multiplayer is not going to compare to the one in the campaign. The one in the campaign is ridiculously strong. You get Achilles, which is a bit weird considering, you know, his men were the Myrmidons. Those are with Zeus. It makes sense that they're with Zeus considering he created them as an ant. Let's not get into the details, but you do get Achilles, who's riding a horse for whatever reason. And then you get Chiron as your ranged hero. Chiron is pretty fast. This is the main benefit with him. Like, he's fast, he does a decent amount of damage. Easier to target, I suppose, than Odysseus, but still pretty fast. And then at tier 4, you get Perseus. Now, Perseus is basically carrying a Medusa head in his hand. So he's basically a hero version of the Medusa, more or less. That's the best way to view it. And obviously, all these melee heroes do have a ranged attack against flying units if you're dealing with those. You get Athena and Ares at tier 2. So you get the choice between having a healing ability and all those hoplite benefits, or going with Ares, getting Cyclops, having Pestilence, which, to be quite blunt about it, like, it slows unit production, it's a good offensive ability, but you do lack that healing capability. At least at tier 2, you can get Apollo at tier 3. So I've already covered Athena, so she's obviously still has the same benefits. But let's look at Ares. He gets the Spear of Panic, which enables them to do divine damage. So they're going to ignore armor. This is going to apply to hoplites. Weirdly enough, it's going to apply to militia, which is bizarre because he doesn't. Well, Hades doesn't have militia, but Poseidon does. So, you know, Poseidon does have Ares. Okay. So you get that spear ability, which also will apply to your cavalry. So it can make the anti-cav Prodromi better against other units as well, right? You may not necessarily even care about Hypaeus if you're playing as Hades, or if you're getting Ares. Potentially, right? Depends on what, you know, you're dealing with. Hypaeus are good against ranged soldiers, more so in terms of survival, but they do have a much higher gold cost than the Prodromi. You then have the Will of Kronos, which gives you Elder Cyclops. Cyclops against Minotaurs is an interesting discussion. So, Minotaurs are better against groups of targets, though they're more vulnerable, but faster than Cyclops. Cyclops are slower, have some issues pathfinding, still do. There's problems with pathfinding. But Cyclops are more durable, and their ability, they can pick up pretty much any human soldier and throw it, including elephants of Egypt. That is so ridiculous. There's clips out there, it's laughable. But yeah, you do have that ability, and it does damage. It used to be more or less an instant kill ability, or very close to an instant kill ability, but now it's just like, it does some damage, it won't necessarily instant kill. You do have, and you might want to go with Ares, because you do get the Bow of Horror. So, but that doesn't apply to your crossbows, it applies to your Toxotai, which means arrows fly incredibly quickly and inflict more damage. So, projectile speed is important because it means, like, you can dodge projectiles in this game. There is an upgrade through the armory that they've added in Retold at the higher tier. You do get ballistics. So they can more accurately shoot at moving targets, right? That's the important bit over there. And you get it for free if you're playing with as Hades. That is one of the significant benefits, because that's 200 wood, 200 gold, and 50 second time. Like, just get to tier 3 and get ballistics over there. So, pretty powerful ability through the Ball of Power combined with Ares' ability. And very significantly, you can train Hypaspists at tier 2. So if you want to go get some good anti-infantry with Hypaspis, you can do so. And this is pretty powerful, especially if you're playing against another Greek player, because well, they're not going to have that kind of option. In fact, Hypaspis will pretty much win against most other tier 2 infantry. Like, I can't really think. Like, throwing axemen, kind of the Norse melee units at tier 2. Berserkers, possibly no. But no, Hypaspis would win that fight. And especially considering that, you know, they get 15% attack with this particular upgrade. So you can potentially rush Hypaspis, and what is the enemy going to do against you, right? Over there. If they have melee units. If they have archers, different discussion. But think about the archer situation. What kind of archers are available at tier 2? Myth units would be the counter to it. But what kind of archers? Like, you would have Toxotes as the Greeks. Atlanteans do have that ballista. You need a massive unit to make that ballista useful. Just some problems there. I mean, Arcus are a good choice, but yeah, you know, Arcus are. Well, let's just say the Atlanteans have some early game issues. Leave it there. Then at tier 3, you get either Apollo, who gives you, you know, more range benefits. I imagine a lot of Hades players would probably gravitate quite a bit towards Apollo, largely because of Sunray, right? So 10% attack damage for range units, flexibility is pretty powerful, and some healing, especially if you've gone with Ares. However, I wouldn't discount Aphrodite either. Curse is a great disable ability against an army. Nemean Lions are really crazy, honestly. So Nemean Lions stun your units. They do damage, they stun your units. They're pretty scary to deal with. They do cost gold. And you do get Argo heroes. So if you're dealing with water maps, you probably would want to go would want to go with that particular ship. Like, having a hero ship against so many naval units that do exist in this game, pretty damn good to have. And also, you get a significant economic benefit over there with Divine Blood. So while you're losing some combat capability by not going to Apollo, Aphrodite boosts your entire economy, including favor. So you get 20% favor rate. Yeah, you know Zeus's benefit? Aphrodite basically has that same benefit over there. But obviously you don't get it inherently, and you only get it at tier 3. And then, of course, you get Hephaestus with that same kind of, with the usual benefits, so resources. Or you can go with Artemis, who gives you Earthquake, Chimeras, Improved Chimeras, and Shafts of Plague. Like, Shafts of Plague poison enemies. So you already have significant range benefits with Hades by default. Then, you know, if you want to go completely bananas, you could go with Ares, Apollo, and then Artemis, and make fly out the best range units in the entire freaking game. Like, that is not even a joke. And you can also get Beast Slayer for more damage against myth units for your heroes. And Chimeras, they do a lot of fire damage, but the scary thing about that, they do fire damage, this fire stays on the ground and basically is area denial. And Earthquake, well, I think that we need to talk about some of the balancing of god powers in multiplayer, because Earthquake is brutal. You use it against an enemy base, and as a player, the tendency is certainly to build up, you know, bases clumped up, because easier to defend, right, as opposed to spreading them around. Pop an Earthquake, and the enemy's gonna feel it. It won't destroy the entire enemy base, but it will severely damage it, and it will destroy weaker buildings. It'll also get the enemy out of position. How you defend against that? Well, I suspect there's various strategies that will be available with regards to that. But it's very difficult, really, because, like, even if you build walls, right, there's still Pegasus, right? Pegasus, and there's no way you can cover the entire area with towers. So as long as they can get vision and then use Earthquake. Yeah, this is a problem. There's a lot of tier 4 powers that do have that ability. Then we get Poseidon, assuming I can get his icon to show up somehow. Hold on, let me try and go in the tech tree. Come on, game. Maybe I need to go to Kronos. Come on. Oh, also, Kronos is... Alright, so Poseidon's icon doesn't show. Alright. Militia spawn from raised buildings, so a bit of a defensive benefit, but they're not particularly great. Cavalry, caravan, and myth units have extra speed, so you can get faster hydras, for instance. Markets and stables are cheaper, you get a better exchange rate, so you can get better, more resource like trading from gold to food and wood if you want that. And you get a naval scout. Like if you're playing naval maps, obviously Poseidon would be the choice really for the Greeks, the primary choice. You get the lure, and you can reuse the lure. This is crazy. So it summons more food in later ages and also can act as a granary. So you don't even need to build your first granary in age 1. This is crazy. Like you can get a lot of food easier because you draw the animals to it. You're not spending the wood, so you don't have to, put someone necessarily on wood on that, right? Get that food, get it coming to you, and animals provide faster food generation than other sources, like farms, for instance, right? Or berries. You will gather food faster from animals, and that's the benefit of the lore. You also get Lord of Horses, which gives you line of sight and HP regeneration for cavalry, which is pretty nice to actually have because you don't have any HP regeneration otherwise for units. So you really are going to go for that particular benefit of cavalry. Speaking about cavalry, if we go into the compendium over there, into units, just gotta go over here, not pass. Heteroi. So they're good against, they deal area damage and they're good against most units. These are basically elite cavalry. Fairly durable, good durability against ranged. They used to be good against buildings, if I'm not mistaken, but now they're just good against everything. These guys are really strong as cavalry, and obviously since Poseidon does have significant benefits with regards to cavalry, that is pretty nice. You can obviously go for Ares, but there would be a firm argument to go with Hermes over here. Specifically the cavalry speed benefit and attack speed benefit that Hermes does have over there. And of course, Centaur is catching up, having range units that can stay behind your cavalry. Now, tier 3, it's an interesting decision, because Aphrodite obviously gives you a significant economic benefit, but on the flip side, you do get that vampiric aura through Dionysus. And while Hydras wouldn't really mesh well with the cavalry army, like where you'd harass, they can be a really good durable unit, especially as a distraction unit against the enemy. And then at tier 4, we do get Artemis or Hephaestus, right? I think like Artemis's benefits are not necessarily, like her upgrades over here are not necessarily going to be felt as good. But then again, like if you're going with the fast moving army, you may not necessarily want to go with Hephaestus. It depends. Like, if I would pick Aphrodite at tier 3, I'm not sure I would pick Hephaestus at tier 4. Similarly, if I'm picking Dionysus at tier 3, I may want to pick Hephaestus at tier 4 for the economic benefit. Like, it does depend, like, min-maxing those decisions. In terms of heroes, you get Theseus, pretty decent hero, pretty durable, gets the job done. Atlanta, she is incredibly fast. Like, she can keep up with the rest of your fast-moving army. Don't underestimate Atlanta. She does cost a decent amount of gold, but she's quite good. You get Hippolyta, pretty decent ranged hero, on foot, so, Chiron, I think, would make more sense over here. Actually, Chiron would make more sense with Zeus, but what the hell do I know about that? And then you get Polyphemus at at tier 4. It makes sense, right? Because, like, the Cyclops are Poseidon's son. Like, why do you think Odysseus had so many problems with him? So, Polyphemus is a slow-moving hero, and he's a big one. But he's very durable, does a ton of damage. Now, I would say Bellerophon is the better hero overall, especially with Zeus's extra HP, but Polyphemus is, second best easily. Like, really powerful, really durable, hard to take down. This guy can tank a lot of damage. It's kind of interesting to think about, like, you want a fast-moving army as Poseidon, because those are the principal benefits, or you want to focus on cavalry, because that's one of the significant benefits with him. But at the same time, you can get some very durable units. Cyclops, Hydras, Colossi, Chimeras even. Like, Chimeras with their AoE damage, don't underestimate those. Pretty strong stuff. Or you can even increase the extra myth damage against units with Olympian weapons with Hephaestus. Or have lions that stun the entire enemy army as you're trying to harass them, and then just finish them off with your fast-moving cavalry. So many juicy possibilities over there. Alright, that's all I had to say. Costin signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.